Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are and what time it is where you're joining me from today. I recognize that we are in the global space and therefore you could be anywhere during this time, and it is on that basis that I'm saying good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. This is Mindset Monday and I am Zoliswa Cheche. I am coming to you from Johannesburg. It's a Monday afternoon, a winter cold one, even though the sun is shining. It's a beautiful beginning of the week. It is pregnant with potential, and I'm so excited to have you here on our Mindset Monday. Zoliswa Cheche is my name. I'm a transformation life coach, an emotional intelligence practitioner. I am a negative emotional therapy practitioner, and all of those things are irrelevant today. I am also a retired corporate executive and a published author. But to you, I'm your sister, and I call myself a mindset advocate. So the purpose of us coming together is really nothing more than having a conversation about anything and everything mindset related. So let's get to it. Last week, this is the second of 4 of the Mindset Monday sessions that we're going to have. Last week, we had the very first one, and we entitled the theme, What Works? So we really looked at what works in your life. I mean, in the midst of all the negativity that is there has to be a corner where you go and you draw from within and understand if there is any single thing that works. Because that is what is going to keep you going. That is what gives you the strength to carry on. And it reassures you. It gives you the confidence. So let us have a look. This is not a monologue. It's interactive. Let's have a look at what some of the people that were in the call said last week. So, Namkhali Skosana says, I love the part where you ask, who do you say you are to yourself? It got me really thinking, are we aware of who we are and what we are destined to, or we are just moving along? Yes, Namkhali, I'm also asking myself exactly the same question, and that is why we are coming together to have these progressive conversations. Zoliswa who says, beautiful and so relevant at this time that we are in. Who knows, Zoliswa, because it could be that we are living in these days and we are coming together in these sessions for such a time as this one. Ntsiginyusela says, your life is an epitome that your past does not determine your future. I love listening to your empowering sessions. Thank you very much. And I trust that we all get empowered and take action about the information that we receive. Charlene Adolf says, today's session reminded me of how I unintentionally have just been surviving 2020. In the midst of the chaos, I'm claiming my life back. Yes, Charlene, one filled with purpose and possibilities. It is very important for you to recognize that you are a possibility, and that is the starting step of what we're going to be talking about today. Asanda Mahlukani says, I loved this lesson. She calls it a lesson. I loved the stories you shared with us. Next time in your introduction, please prompt your audience to bring a pen and paper, because this is not just entertainment. This is powerful education and empowerment from a powerful woman. As Asanda says, please ensure that you have your pen and paper or some kind of a recording device that is going to enable you to get engaged and to remind yourself about the concepts that we are talking about. Tex Hlalele says, brilliant stuff, Zoliswa. The enamel, the gate, the first experience, getting that job spoke to me. We are a source of our own transformation. We are our own eagle. Yes, indeed, my brother, we are our own eagle. And the whole exercise is from within. It is an inside out. It is you taking over the reins of your own life. So, last week I said, just go and have a look at the strengths that you are having. And I said a strength is a good quality and attribute that you have. That's a proverbial rod that you would use to separate the waters of the proverbial Red Sea if you were to try and get across on anything. So now I want to believe that in the last week, in the last 7 days, you've done some exercise, you've reflected, and you have looked at all these positive things that you have that you had been ignoring all along. All these qualities that you have, the attributes that you have, the power that resides inside of you that you had not been giving recognition, that you had not been giving yourself a pat on the back for. And you said, you go boy or you go girl. You've got all of these things. Imagine you're about to go to some holiday in some exotic destination. You've taken out, you are clearing your closet. Remember, this is what we've been doing in the last week. We've been taking out all of those items, some of which we had forgotten about. We've put them on the bed and we said, you know what? I'm going to pack these things in my suitcase. I'm going to be gone for a week or whatever that period is. Wait. Where are you going? Where is your there? You want to get there, but where is that destination that you call a there for yourself? What do you want, in other words? So today's transformational benefit is to basically introduce to you tips on how to develop a vision. How do you get there? What is the first step before you can get to where you would like to be at? You've got the strengths. You know that you've got these good qualities. You remember your previous experiences, and these remind you that the same power that got you to be where you are when you were going through all the hurdles of the previous experiences is still inside of you, and it can still take you forward. So you are using the feeling, you're using the energy and basking and allowing that energy to carry you as you go forward. But now first, the identification of where your forward is. So in terms of our intentions for today, we are going to be talking about where's my there, and we will be dissecting this into the where, the my, and the there. That's the conversation that we're about to have. As I was preparing for our talk today, I got drawn into a certain time of my life that I had forgotten. For a very long time, I want to believe that the subconscious mind had deliberately allowed me to forget it, had suppressed it in a way until I am ready to deal with it. I had told the story to very few people, and every time that I tell the story, I find it very difficult not to crack. So if I do, you will understand that this is my vulnerability, it's my truth, it's my story. But a number of things happened between the year 2002 and 2003. I left Pretoria to go back to home, which is Port Elizabeth, because things just didn't work for me at that time. Life was just giving me a different aspect to it that I never understood up until much later. So I remember I was working at some company in the city center, and in a building called the CCMA House. So it was maybe the 4th floor, something like that. I can no longer remember. But at the bottom of the building, there were some surgeries and a few shops. I was very stressed during that time. I want to believe that I actually went into some bout of depression, even though it was never diagnosed as such, because I did not go to a person like a doctor that was eligible to give me such a diagnosis for that. So I remember how stressed I was. The main issue in my life at that time was financial in nature. I had a job. I had a medical aid, so I could go, medical aid cover, I could go and see a doctor, but it just did not allow me, the money that I used to get, the salary that I used to receive, just did not allow me to survive until month end. I was that girl, you know, that girl in the last 2 days before month end who is sick, who doesn't go to work, not because she is really physically sick. Maybe there was some symptomatic, some kind of symptoms that would come as a result of my mind telling me that I'm sick at times. But I wouldn't go to work. I wouldn't be able to go to work because I had no more money left for the taxi. I give thumbs up to Abo Mashonisa of that time, because as much as their interest rates were very high and I felt at times that it was unreasonable, they kept me going all that I could do with the little money that I have was to pay back what I had borrowed from Mashonisa the previous month and then take some, which it was likely to even be more. And there was no bank that could give me money because I was blacklisted. So I had to rely on these kind of the loans that were not secure, because those were the only people that could actually give me some form of survival. And so I remember in all the state of frustration, one of the episodes, and there are three stories that came to mind as I was thinking about this today. The first one, we had a team building session in the team that I worked in. I worked for a labor tribunal, the labor dispute tribunal entity at that time, which was in that building. And so we had this workshop, which was facilitated by an external person. And she said, this is the facilitator now, said, write on a piece of paper about where you see yourself in the next year. And so I wrote about where I see myself. I remember I was wearing this jersey that's green, white, and red. Who wears that though? But that's what I was wearing. And it looked so clumsy. But as I looked at it, I was like, this is the last time that I'm wearing this jersey. As I'm writing this little vision that I have about where I will be in the next year, I will probably be wearing designer clothes. I will be in something different. But among the list of the way I would like to be that I had written there, it was that I'm going to be driving this car that is number GP. I lived in Port Elizabeth. All the registration numbers ended in EC. So we gave our feedback. I was the last person to give feedback. I remember how my manager cracked. She just laughed in a way that was mocking me. When I said number GP, she laughed until tears rolled down her cheeks, saying, why would you even expect to have a car with a registration number that is number GP because you live in the Eastern Cape? There was no connection with the fact that in a small world that I am in now, that's the micro environment of where I am. But it does not define who I wish to be and who I can be if I allow myself to get out of this cocoon that I am in. And in the same year, I was still looking for a better job because remember, I was that person that was responsible for all of the family members, but Mashonisa was my source of income or my source of revenue at the time because I had to pay them back. And I was looking for another job, and I was invited to this interview. The interview, all these white people, there were about 5 white people in the panel. And this is my story. I do tell the names because it's part of the healing. It was Coca-Cola Fortune in North End, Port Elizabeth. So there I was. The role was a mere coordinator of some sort, some support administration type of a role. And they were paying 7,000 rand. I was earning 4,000 rand. So I was like, 7,000 rand would really make a difference in my life. Let me go for this interview. And so I answered all the questions intelligently. I want to believe that I was convincing because that's what I told myself at that time. And the line manager, this is the recruiting manager, the person that I would have reported to if I was employed, said to me, how much do we earn at this stage? And so I told, and he laughed. Those tears that came out of Mandisa's eyes, who was my manager, I saw them again. Here is somebody laughing at me because I earned 4,000 rand and I think I deserve a role of 7,000 rand. The fact that I earn 4,000 rand means that is the worth that I can give, and nobody should ever really give me what I deserve, or I don't even deserve it. I felt I was not good enough. I felt worthless. I just felt useless. I remember coming out of that interview telling myself that these are not the people that I would want to be associated with, because the trigger reminded me of something that had happened fairly recently. And so with all the stress, I didn't have the money, but I have a medical aid cover. So I went to the psychologist. I was already a psychology graduate. And so I believed in the counseling, and that I needed someone who could just talk to me so that I can gain some kind of clarity, because I knew that I do have the tools, but the tools were not working for me at that time when everything was just like a dark cloud. And so one of the lecturers that I had, a psychology lecturer that I had, Dr. Ngweni, I had already established a rapport with her when she was my the lecturer at the university that I was at. I told her when I left, I dropped out of the honors class, that I needed to go and find employment. So she somehow had an understanding of my situation and what I was going through. So I thought, let me go to her in her capacity as a therapist this time around, and I would be a patient. When I went there, she was not available. I had no appointment made, but she had a surgery on the ground floor of the building that I worked at. And I went in, she was not available, but there was another psychologist. So I mean, a psychologist is a psychologist is a psychologist. I went in for the consultation. And okay, we started with the usual, how does that make you feel kind of a conversation, and what do you want, why are you here, how would you like me to help you? And as part of the conversation with this psychologist, she said, what do you think would get you out of this problem that you are experiencing? And I said, actually, what I do every month, I earn 4,000 Rand, but I actually have 2 budgets that I prepare. This one for 4,000 Rand is useless because I'm never able to make everything come out of it. But I have another one for 10,000 Rand, but I do not earn 10,000 Rand. So I'm actually looking for a job that's going to give me 10,000 Rand. She laughed. The whole psychologist, doctor of the mind, she laughed. I remember that because I didn't have an appointment, it was lunchtime, so she said I would have to forgive her because she was eating some citrus fruit. I can't remember what it was. But she laughed up until she reached for a tissue. You would expect that in a consultation room of that nature, as a patient, I would be the one who is crying and having to use a tissue on her eyes. No, it was the psychologist that attended to me. She found it very funny that I was dreaming. I'm telling you these stories because in creating your vision, some of the people are going to count you and weigh you and find you wanting, and they are going to give you a label. It is for you to remove that label. It is for you to look at things from the opposite side of the coin. Remember the flip coin that we spoke about last week? If you find that this reality that is looking at you does not work for you, you have a responsibility to surround yourself with the people that are going to support you and the people that are like-minded as yourself in terms of seeing the possibility that you are and the opportunities that are out there. I have what is called a mastermind group. These are the people that come together with me and we hold each other accountable in terms of the visions that we communicate to each other. And maybe one of these days I will find out if they are kind enough to just come together and have a session and share, just so that you can get a sense of what we talk about as people who are like-minded when we are talking about the topic of a vision or just experiences of life. Okay. So I said, let us dissect the where is my there. Where, in the first place, is an environment, it's a space, it's a place, or it's an avenue or an area. So when we're talking about a vision and we're saying where, we are talking about exactly at what environment, at what space, at what area are you going to be doing something which is this vision, connected to this vision of yours. I use vision and dream interchangeably. However, I tend to steer away from using the word dream until I am sure that I'm talking to people that understand exactly what we're talking about. Because the moment you say dream, You are in South Africa in winter right now, it's cold, then people start thinking about their two-ply blankets as well as the winter sheets. I don't want that, because once you talk about a dream, people associate it with sleeping. You have to start by having the dream, but you wake up and build that dream. I remember that my coach, and I see that she's on the call, thank you for joining us, used to say to us, I am not a dreamer, I am a dream builder. Remember to use the language, I am a dream builder. So when I talk about the vision, I'm actually talking about the dream that you have, but I'm not talking about the dream that you have that you live in bed. I'm talking about the one that you're going to wake up in the morning, jump out of bed and chase after that dream. So that is the where, the environment. When we are saying mine, now we are talking about something that you design, something that you connect to, and something that you nurture, because it's your own. It's like your own baby. You have to make sure that this baby of yours grows or develops. There is a destination. It's the end in mind. You begin with the end in mind. Before you take the first step, you know where you are going. I made an example about the clothes that you took out of your closet subsequent to last week's session. They are on the bed. You're about to pack them. But before you pack them, you are not going to be packing boots if you're going to be going to a summer area that is warm. Also, you might just find it unnecessary to take any kind of sandals if you're going to a place that is very cold or a season that is winter at that time. So you need to understand where you are going, because that is going to determine what you take with you so as to be comfortable when you get there. And there is also the vision. It's the actual vision. What do you see? If you are pointing at the place, there is where for you, because it is not at the same place for all the other people. So how do you develop a vision? I said that's our transformational benefit for today. Now, the mindset to adopt when you develop a vision is that something comes from nothing. Creation comes from thinking, active thinking. I'm not talking about design thinking. I'm not talking about any other type of thinking that is a byproduct of what you are trying to establish. I'm talking about the sense or the act of active thinking. So creation comes from active thinking. Execution comes from ideation. So if you have ever worked in a project, you will know that we start with understanding what we want to achieve. What is the outcome? What is the output that we want to get? Then we work backwards from there by looking at what we need to do for us to get there. So for us to develop this vision, now we have this mindset. What do we do as the first thing? We are here, we want to get to the vision, but how do we get there? The current situation that you are in is the trigger for you to want or to develop a certain vision that you have, or to have a dream that you have. One of two things, or a combination thereof, is going to provide a fertile opportunity for you to have that vision or that dream. It can either be dissatisfaction with the current environment as it is, or a longing for something different. You have the head and the tail on the coin. You don't like the tail. Therefore, what is the opposite, the polar opposite of the tail that you would like to see? So when we're talking about dissatisfaction is the most beautiful state you can ever be in. It is one of those states that are so exciting when you look at it as a starting point, and understanding that it does not define your end point. It does not define who you are. It is only an identification of where you should start when you recalibrate your life. So dissatisfaction allows you to say, what would I like it to look like so that I could be satisfied? I don't like it right now as it is, but if I were to be the CEO of my life, if I were to be the mayor of the city, How would I turn things around in such a way that I like what I see? So that is the satisfaction, which creates a longing, because I don't like what I see and I long for the polar opposite thereof. That is the creation of a paradigm shift between the habits that we have now, or what we see now, and what we would like to see. And then there is the visualization of what you desire. The visualization of what you desire is creating a clear picture in your mind of that which you wish to achieve. I'm reminded now that after my whole ordeal with my psychologist, just opposite the door of the psychologist was a doctor's room. So I went to the doctor. I was feeling really stressed. General practitioner, Indian man. I love him to bits. I don't remember Doctor Who, but he had an impact in my life. He ran a series, performed blood tests, a battery of blood tests on me, trying to understand what was wrong. Of course, there was absolutely nothing wrong, because everything that was the issue was mind related. I remember when I went back a week later to get the feedback from the test results, he looked at this piece of paper and said, everything seems to be okay. I see that your red blood cells are a little enlarged, but it's nothing to worry about. And he said to me, what do you do as the first thing when you wake up in the morning? I said, I pray, and then I go and prepare, take a bath and things like that, and go and prepare to go to work. And he said to me, can I suggest that 5 minutes before you fall asleep and 5 minutes after you wake up, just remove the pillow and lay flat on your bed and ensure that you are comfortable. Everything is loose. You don't have anything that's holding on, hugging onto your body. And be aware of your toes. Be aware of the sole of your foot. Be aware of your heels. Be aware of your ankles. Send your attention to your legs all the way up. And breathe, because what you appear to be going through at this stage is that you do not breathe. You can't breathe. Yes, oxygen is coming through into your lungs, but you are not breathing as you should, because there has to be a space where you feel that all this negative energy, all this heavy yoke that's on your shoulders is put aside for a while, and you focus on yourself. You just go within, because all the ideas about how you're going to get out of the situation that you are in are inside of you. Some of the answers to your questions will come from unexpected sources. It was a general practitioner that gave me that idea. He didn't give me any medication, because there was no need for him to give me medication. But he planted a seed in my life that I have to go inside of me, because the ideas for me to reach that which I wish to reach are inside of me. This was 2002, towards the end of the year. In 2003, between June and July, I was sitting with a letter of appointment in my head. The offer was not 10,000 rand. It was 120,000 rand per year, which translates to 10,000 rand, which is exactly what I had been writing on a piece of paper every time I had to put together a budget. You might call it a fantasy. You might call it some kind of being unrealistic, but I can tell you now, the vision that we have has got to be nurtured and harbored by you. And how closely you are to that vision, and how you nurture that vision, how you look at yourself as being at that place today already, is what is going to channel your mind in such a way that you see this that you have in your mind coming to manifestation. So in saying that, I'm saying the strengths that you have are the strengths that you have, that you are going to use the energy from them to carry you towards identification of where you would like to be. In the next week, Continue to identify where you would like to be in different areas of your life and have a feeling of how exciting, how joyous it is for you to be there, and harbor that feeling. Nurture that feeling. Let that feeling grow inside of you. And as you're doing that, remember, you do not just sleep and not do anything about your dream. You're going to have to wake up and you're going to have to chase after that dream. Next week, we will be looking at where I am as compared to where I would like to be, because from there, we will be continuing by connecting the dots between where we are and getting to where we would like to be. I trust that this has been informational. It shouldn't end there. I want to believe that it has been motivating, but it has gone beyond just motivation to inspire you to take action. And I trust that it has transformed a part of your life as well, where you go into that deep. You do not avoid the negative things that have happened in your life, because some of your greatest blessings will come to you wrapped in sandpaper. I will see you again on Monday at 4 p.m. South African time. Next week, this is Zoliswa Cheche, your mindset advocate. Up until then, remember, you have a fabulous life ahead of you, and it is waiting for you. Keep well.